Good evening. Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I am Kevin Maurer, the Associate Principal of South Fayette Middle School and one of the coordinators of the South Fayette Township School District Speaker Series. We extend a warm and heartfelt welcome to all of you attending this second event of our Speaker Series tonight. Your presence here is greatly appreciated, and we're very excited to have you join us for this enlightening occasion. It's great to see some returning members from our last Speaker Series event a few weeks ago. We would like to express our profound gratitude to our esteemed partners whose support has made this event possible. UPMC Children's Hospital Foundation, Kidsburg Parents as Allies, and South Fayette Shout Club, which stands for Student Handprints Overcoming Unjust Treatment. We have some members of the Shout Club with us this evening. Their commitment to our community and education is truly commendable. With their assistance, we're able to present an exceptional evening event this evening, promising both information, discussion, thought-provoking discussion, and storytelling. We also wish to thank the South Fayette Administrative Leadership Team and our Board of School Directors, some who are with us this evening, Dr. Miller, our Superintendent, and Mrs. Burrows, one of our Board of Director leaders, and for their unwavering support of programs such as this. Our speakers' insights this evening and stories will undoubtedly leave a lasting impact, and we are thrilled to have her as a part of this engaging series. As we gather tonight, we celebrate the spirit of learning, community, and progress. And your presence adds vibrancy to our event, and your engagement enriches the discussion. So start already thinking of questions you may have for later this evening, and furthering the mission of our great guest speaker tonight. So once again, thank you for being a part of this special evening. To introduce our speaker, I'd like to invite my colleague, friend, and Speaker Series co-organizer, as well as South Fayette School District Director of Diversity, Equity, Inclusion, and Belonging, Dr. Chuck Herring, to the podium.
Good evening, everyone. First and foremost, we're here. Perfect. I am flat out excited to say that there's, how many of you have heard of Junior Achievement? Right? I'm so proud to do it with JA, So, well, Junior Achievement this is the third year, they have what's called the 18 under 18. And just about an hour or two ago, we found out that we have 3 finalists from South Fayette. Wow. 3 finalists for the 18 under 18. So they're making the top 36, which is awesome. And we happen to have 2 of them in this room today, so I am super honored to say that we have Prerna Chakangal and we have Adi Basara. So just wanted to give them a quick shout out, and since they're members of Shout, I just wanted to give them a shout out. But anyway, I am flat out excited and honored to be here today. Long time ago, and I don't even know if she remembers this, Vanessa, myself, and her youngest sister, because Vanessa's the oldest, my middle daughter Ashley's here, but youngest daughter's not here today. But her youngest sister was about 4 years old, and Vanessa is about 8 years older than me, so she's like 12. And we were watching Barney, and Vanessa was like, I can do what those kids are doing. And I said, you're right. You can't do that. And she said, watch me. And she acted out like a whole scene from Barney. If all the raindrops were candy canes and gumdrops. And I was like, dang, she really can do it. And so fast forward a year or so later, there was something, the internet was kind of new. And there was online a competition that said, hey, the Steelers are looking for the host of this brand new show called the McDonald's Steelers Kid Zone. And I remembered that in my head, and I said, hey, Ness, would you be interested in trying out for this? And she was like, sure. And unfortunately, I couldn't make it. Like, I don't know how she's going to get there. So I called my dad, and my dad's here. And my dad took her down there. And so the rest is history. I'm not going to get into any more about that other than to say that I am so proud and honored and excited that you are living your personal legend, that you're living the life that you always wanted, that you're in makeup and fashion and all the things that you did. We still have some of your fashion books that you designed from when you were like 10, 11, 12 years old, and now you actually have your own clothing line. Phenomenal. Ladies and gentlemen, Vanessa.
Thanks, Dad. I was gonna tell that story, but I guess not now. No, I'm just kidding. We can act like we don't know. It's my pleasure to be here, and since I've asked a lot of questions over the course of my career, I do want to make sure that I leave time for some questions too. So we're gonna do a little Q&A as well as part of this. But my Gramps is here, who did bring me to that first audition, which, by the way they remembered me was because I had my purse the whole time. And when I got my call back, they were like, were you afraid someone was going to steal your purse? I was like 13. I was like, I don't know, kind of. I had a lot of important things in that bag. But instead of taking you through kind of like step by step by step, there's a lot that happened over the decade or so that I've been professionally in this career. I thought that I'd share a couple lessons that I learned along the way at each step. So the first one was with the McDonald's Steelers Kid Zone. When I was selected, I was actually a backup host. And it was kind of like, if you make it next season, and I was determined to make it next season. We didn't have a teleprompter, you had to memorize your lines. It was actually really hard. We had a live studio audience, but I made it. I was invited back the next year. I hosted throughout my 4 years in high school. And the one lesson that I learned that always stood out for me from working with the Steelers Kid Zone is being prepared. That's the first lesson I learned, and I learned it there doing interviews because I had a big interview. It was a legend, a Steelers legend. You ever heard of Franco Harris? Okay. Franco Harris was coming on the show, and I did all my prep work. I had all my questions. I looked up his history. The one thing I didn't really look at, because we all say his name so often, was how his name is actually spaced out. So I remember going into the green room and I was like, hi, Mr. O'Harris. And everyone was like, who is she talking to? I was like, hi, so nice to meet you, I'm Vanessa. And fortunately, because I was in high school and he was very gracious, he didn't say, my name is Franco, not Frank O'Harris. And I learned a very important lesson to always make sure, even if you think you know, to double check and make sure that you really know, to take that extra step, because sometimes you think, I hear it all the time, I know that, I've read it so much, I know that everything's perfect. There's always that one thing that can escape your memory. So working with the Steelers Kid Zone, I learned to be prepared, and to also be prepared with my lines, also to know ahead of time all of my lines, and to make sure that I was always good to go. My second lesson I learned when I got my first job as a television news reporter in Erie, Pennsylvania. I graduated from college a year early. I was like, I'm gonna hit the ground running. I'm gonna get this job. I'm gonna be out here doing these stories. I can't wait. I tried for months and months and months, didn't get a job. Sent out so many tapes, so many resumes, didn't get a job. And the lesson I learned was sometimes you have to do things that you don't really wanna do. So when I got the job in Erie, Pennsylvania, they had an opening for a producer. And I was like, I don't want to be a producer. Like, I want to go out there. I want to be in the mix of everything. I want to tell stories. But I took that job and I learned how to produce. And when I was in the newsroom, I talked to the managers. I was like, hey, if I get really good at producing, do you think I could do a story here and there? And they were like, yeah, as long as you finish your producing work, you can go do a story. So I'm like, all right, so I got really fast. Got to do a story. Then I was like, hey, do you think like maybe if I could anchor and run back into the booth and produce my show at the same time, like, do you think that'd be fine? And they were like, if you want to do extra work, then sure, fine, like that's fine. And so while doing something I didn't really want to do, I was able to get the opportunity that I really wanted, but I also was able to learn all aspects of the business, which helped me further along, because sometimes talent can just be talent. And you don't know what goes into the production. You don't know what goes into the video work. You don't know what goes into the behind the scenes. So I was able to learn all of those things while also learning and being a part of the business that I really wanted to be a part of. The next step was Rochester, New York. I moved to Rochester, New York after about 2.5 years in Erie, Pennsylvania, and that job was actually an on-air job. And I was like, this is my first job where I'm on air straight out of the gate, and I'm so ready to do it Monday through Friday. It was a dream come true. I get to Rochester, New York, and in Erie, Pennsylvania, there's not a whole lot of big news stories that really happen. I remember my first breaking news story in Rochester, and it was a bus crash. Unfortunately, everyone was okay, but it was just a big mess of a scene. So really the story was more of like the traffic being tied up because fortunately everyone was okay. And I got there and they're like, you're gonna be live as soon as you get to the scene. I'm like, all right, I've been waiting for this all my life. And I get there, and this is when I learned the lesson, practice makes perfect. Because I was like, I've been practicing. And I remember very vividly, the whole scene of the bus is behind me, and I stood in front of the camera. And I never moved. I just was like, and here's all the information, I have all the facts, here's the traffic, this and the third, and I sign off. And then the assistant news director calls me, Connie. She actually ended up being one of my mentors, and she was like, I was like, hey, so what did you, it was great, right? She was like, we didn't see the bus the whole time. And I was like, you are right. She was like, so maybe next time just get the first couple lines out and then step over to the side. And it's those things that you don't think about, like you are used to doing things one way, but you always have to be able to change, to adapt. And so I learned that. I learned practice makes perfect, and I learned to rewatch my story so I could see if I was standing in front of the bus the whole time, that maybe that wasn't the best experience for the viewer. So third stop took me to Baltimore, Maryland, and Washington, D.C., which I actually left Rochester, New York without a job. My husband got a job in the D.C. area. I had an agent at the time, which I also learned, get someone who actually believes in you. Because he was like, I don't know, Rochester to D.C., that doesn't really happen. I ended up being able to get a job in D.C. and in Baltimore. But I learned that you really want to make sure that you're doing what makes you happy. And so when I was in Baltimore, it was really like a dream again to work in such a big market, to cover national news stories. DC and Baltimore especially, like if you want to learn politics and breaking news, and that's really a great place to be. However, I was working night side, I was working weekends, so I was off Tuesday, Wednesday, middle of the week. Wasn't the greatest schedule, especially with a spouse who works in education. And one day I was kind of like, if CNN called me right now, would I be happier like doing this? Like, am I really doing what makes me happy? I have achieved things that like you should achieve in this career, but would I be happier if I reach the sort of pinnacle in doing the breaking news, in doing the hard news reporting? And my answer was, not really. No, I wouldn't be. And so I was talking with my husband and I was like, starting over just seems kind of weird. Like, I've gone this far, I should just stay the course. And he was like, if you don't love what you're doing right now, then start over. Like, we'll move, it's fine, we'll start over. And so that's when I started looking into hosting, because when I worked for the Steelers, I really enjoyed it. It was something that really lit a fire in me. And so I started looking for hosting jobs, and I found a job with a national television retailer. And I applied. And when I applied, because I had done hard news for so long, I didn't even have a resume tape, because I was like, what am I gonna send them? Me standing in front of the bus, not moving out of the way, has very little to do with shopping. And so I just wrote a letter that explained kind of just my passion and why I should be there. And I ran into the casting director about 6 months ago, and he said he reads that letter when he hosts television hosting workshops, because the letter came along with no tape, and he was like, but it explained what we felt like we would get. And so do what makes you happy, and you can always change course. And if what you thought made you happy doesn't make you happy anymore, it's okay to do something else. And my last lesson has come at my latest stop where I currently work, and that's trust and believe in yourself. So when I started this job, it's unlike any other job, and we have people who come from all kinds of backgrounds, and we don't have teleprompters. We don't have like anyone really feeding you information. Sometimes I'm talking for 10 minutes alone about a shirt. And that's a long time to talk about a shirt for 10 minutes. And so when you first start, there's kind of that fear that, what if I don't have anything to say? And so I remember just writing all these notes. And then one day I got a shift added and I didn't have any time to prepare. And I was kind of like, oh no, like I don't know anything about these items. And that's when I learned that sometimes you have everything you need already there. It was like, I've loved clothes all my life. I could talk about a shirt for 10. I call my mom and talk about a shirt for 10 minutes. Like, I can talk about it. I can do it. And so sometimes you just have to let go and trust that you have everything that you need. And so I really learned that. And then honestly, after I started like trusting myself a little more, it was fun. Like, I was like, I feel so free. I don't have all these notes. The prep is still important, and I still take the time to make sure I know the products, I know the people, I know the features. But the parts that are just you, that you get to be yourself, that you're really in your element, trust that and don't ever change that. And I think that's the biggest lesson that I've learned so far. So my career's taken me a lot of places, from a producer to reporter. I did weather for a little while. That was weird because I'm not a meteorologist at all. Can't tell you the weather. But I did weather. I've done anchoring. Now I'm hosting. I've done sports. I've done fashion. I've done a little bit of everything. And I feel like at every stop along the way, I've learned a lesson that has helped me not only just in life in general, but has definitely helped me at the next stop. So that's my story, but I know that we have a little Q&A as well with Lyric. Should I take this?
Yeah.
Okay. I can give it to her. Hey, girl.
Hi. Thank you. So before I start, I'd like to say it's an honor to be able to interview you, and thank you so much for your time.
Thank you. It's an honor to be interviewed by you.
So my first question for you is a two-part question. First, can you share with us one of the most challenging times in your career, and then share the highest moment of your career?
The most challenging times in my career were definitely when I was doing hard news. I remember when I worked in Baltimore, and there was a story where there was a shooting in a newsroom in Annapolis, Maryland. And I remember that week very vividly because I went to a vigil every single night. And just talking to the families, and it was very taxing, and your heart goes out to them, and it's hard to be in that space for a week straight. And I just remember that being such a difficult week, and also wanting to make sure that I was doing the best job that I could on that story for the families, so that when they saw it, if they did see it on air, they could be proud of what they saw. So that was definitely a really, really hard week for me, and definitely one of the toughest in my career. And I would say that the best moment so far in my career was when I was able to launch my own clothing line, which I never thought would ever happen. And it was just like a meeting with my manager, and they were like, hey, by the way, we just kind of want you to like design some clothes. And I was like, me? Okay, all right, sure. And so the line launched in June, and the response from our customers was incredible. And it's always been a dream of mine that I never, ever thought that would happen, and it did.
That sounds really exciting. So when you think of your media experience, what would you say are 3 things that you believe someone starting in the field of media should know or do?
One thing is to always do your research. We talked a little bit about that with Frank O'Harris. It's a mistake that we don't want to make. But even in what I do now, like I pretty much get to shop for a living, but there are still little things that you need to know. Like if I'm handed a toy live on the air, it seems simple when you're at home, but when the lights are on, the cameras are on, you don't know where the on button is. So like I make sure ahead of time, like if I need to make a notation, put the batteries here, turn it on this way, this thing is weird with this item, that you're prepared and that you know the backstory, you know how things work. So definitely always be prepared. Learn other roles, because I think that sometimes, especially if you're like, I want to be on air, I want to be talent, then you don't want to do the other things. But it's important to know how to produce, how to edit, how to shoot video, especially in news. Like, I knew from being a producer how stressful it is when a reporter calls in and they're like, it's 2 minutes before the show and they're like, yeah, my story fell through. And I'm like, okay. So knowing how that felt, if I knew that my story might not make it, I would let the producer know well ahead of time so that they wouldn't have that panic. And then my third thing would be to always be yourself. It's definitely a business where people can tell you, like, don't do this, don't do that, you must do this. Don't worry about any of that. There are people who say, like, you can't get there from here, you shouldn't talk this. Don't worry about any of that. Take the advice, and if there's something that you need to tweak, do that. Like, don't be rigid, but definitely always be yourself.
Okay, so stepping away from your work for a moment, what do you like to do for fun?
Sleep. I work really weird hours, so like on Friday I'm on air till 3 a.m. So I like to have a little nap here and there. I like to go visit Starbucks. It's my favorite place to go. Gotta go every day. I like to shop, which, shocker, because it's pretty much what I do at work. I just like to stroll the mall sometimes. It's very soothing to me. Watch a little Netflix. I like documentaries, so I'll like watch some documentaries. And Tetris. I'm very good at Tetris, if I must say so myself.
So, a totally random question. Your choice, Beyonce or Taylor Swift, and why?
I went to London to see Beyonce, okay? Like, I am 10 tones down for Beyonce. I think that, and especially seeing her this last time, not only do I just love her music, but her work ethic is incredible. And it's honestly like inspiring to see someone who works that hard. And so I love her music, but I also love just like seeing the incredible visions that she's able to bring to life. So, Beyonce.
I definitely agree with that choice. So, since the last question was a little trendy, what do you do to keep yourself relevant and ahead of the new trends in the media?
Well, that's a good question, actually, because now that I shop, part of my job is to have sort of like your own identity, your own persona, your own personality, especially style-wise. And I try to not go with the trends, because I think the way trends are started is that someone did it. So if you're only going with the trends, then you never have kind of like your own identity. So I'm not really afraid to try anything new. Like, sometimes I'll put on an outfit, I'm like, I don't know, this looks kind of weird, but I'm just gonna go with it. I'm just gonna go with it and see what happens. And I feel like when you're not afraid to step outside of your box, like, does it always work? No. Sometimes I'm like, that probably should have stayed in the box. But I think you're able to have your own identity. Like, I just try not to be afraid to try anything. And I think that really helps me, especially when I'm doing fashion and beauty, as having something that's different and a unique perspective.
So, what would you say like your favorite personal like social media influencer is?
That's a good question. I actually don't know if I have one. This is probably a little controversial, but I can't do TikTok. There's too many things coming at me. It doesn't stop. You can't pause it. So I'm not really on TikTok. On Instagram, I kind of just scroll a little bit and then click off. Can I go with Beyonce?
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go with Beyonce.
Okay, so I'd like to know, with mental wellness being a much needed topic to promote these days, can you share a strategy that you use to maintain balance and good mental health?
I definitely try to make sure that I am protecting my time and my space in all aspects. So because I do work very strange hours, like I'm not usually awake during the day, I'm awake at night. And so when I'm scheduling meetings and things like that, there are a lot of times when people want to meet at 10 o'clock in the morning, 11 o'clock in the morning, when I've been up until 3 a.m. And so I've learned to say, that doesn't work for me. Here's a time that works for me, and not overload myself, because there was a time where I would just sleep for 5 hours, get up, suffer. I'm like, no one else is suffering, so why am I suffering? So I really try to make sure that I protect my time and that I use my vacation time, which I never used to do. I used to just work. But I make sure, even if I'm not doing anything, that I have that break.
So, what's the next big move for Vanessa Herring that the world should stay tuned for?
Oh, well, whoa, that you stumped me, Lyric. I mean, I'm gonna be shopping some more. I think that something could be coming during the holiday season, so I guess that's a little teaser. Something will be dropping during the holidays, and honestly, I like where I am right now. I'm always trying to build and get better every day. So if you're looking to shop, I can take you shopping. And yeah, some clothing will be coming up again soon. So some things I can't really say, but they'll be coming.
Yeah, definitely looking forward to it. Well, that's it from me. Thank you for sharing your time with us.
Thank you. Thank you so much. If we have any questions from the audience, do we have any questions from anyone?
Yeah.
Oh.
You started out on the kids zone.
Uh-huh.
Oh, I'm sorry. You started out on the kids zone, and you said that was a good experience working on the sports side of things, and you cleaned up the Franco O'Harris field. I was just wondering, do you have any aspirations of ever getting in on the sports side of things again? ESPN, Fox.
Anything sport-like?
Yeah.
I can never say never. You never know what could happen, but I would say probably not. Like, I think my heart is in shopping. Oh, here's a question behind you.
Yeah, I'm just curious, for the young women that are here, just how you have balanced your family life with a career where you're working till 3 a.m, or you have these odd hours, or you said you have a husband that's a teacher?
Yeah, he's an assistant principal, yeah.
Okay, so then it's challenging, I imagine, to see him regularly too. So how has that played out for you guys?
Well, neither of us really sleeps very regularly because we try to at least, like, sometimes I'll get up a little earlier, he'll stay up later so that we can actually just like see each other. But like before we went on vacation, we just went on vacation like a week ago, we hadn't seen each other in like 3 days. Like, we live in the same house. We're like, we haven't seen each other in 3 days. I was like, how you doing? It's good to see you. So it's a sacrifice on both ends, but I think that we kind of compromise as much as we can. So the nice thing is that even though I work until 3 in the morning on Fridays, then I have the rest of Friday off. So when he gets home from work, I'm there, we can do dinner or something. And so although he's like kind of exhausted, he'll stay up. And then if there's a day where I can just get up a little earlier and hang out with him, I'll do that. So it's not easy, but you just kind of have to like get used to being tired. Oh, you have a question?
How did you get where you are now?
Like where I'm working now, or just like like where I'm working now? So when I applied, I went on the website and I was like, I never really thought about working here, but let me give it a shot. Auditions were closed. And so I was like, all right, well, I guess, I don't know. They don't hire very often. Like about, I don't know, several months later, like about 6 months later, they sent me an email saying like auditions were open. I sent in a resume, and then I was like, I don't really know how this works because I've always had news jobs. I had to do 6 months of auditions. By the last audition, I was like, do you want my social security number? Like, what are we doing here? After 6 months, like I remember I had an audition in New York City in person, and I just thought like I did so good. And I like went out of the building and I called my husband. I was like, whoa, I think I got the job. And they were like, yeah, so we're doing another callback. I was like, okay. So it took about like 6 months of auditions. And basically what the auditions were, which we didn't really know at the time, I'm preparing like all this knowledge of products and thinking that like they want all of this product research, and really they just wanted to get to know us, like see what your personality was like, see how long you could talk for uninterrupted, like 10, 11, 12 minutes, until it feels awkward to be talking to yourself. Like that's kind of like how long they let us go. And then after 6 months of auditions, I was hired in a group of 3.
How did you know you wanted to do that?
I always liked beauty and fashion, and so that's initially what attracted me. But then I like that every day is different. So like tomorrow I could sell a vacuum, the day after that I could do a cooking show, which if you want comedy, watch me do a cooking show. The day after that I could do beauty, and so it's always different. It's live in the moment. Like when I'm on air, everything is completely live. You never know what's going to happen. And so it's really exciting to have a job where every single day you don't know what's going to happen. And so I really, really enjoyed that. So that's kind of what attracted me.
Hi.
Hi.
Can you give me any advice on how to deal with negative criticism and how to not be afraid of what your peers think of you?
Yes, don't be afraid of what they think of you. It's hard. I know it's hard to hear negative criticism. And I mean, unfortunately, it does take a little bit of thick skin. But what I've learned sometimes is one, sometimes people just want something to say. And so over the years that I've been on TV, I've heard it all. I remember doing a news story and someone didn't like my lipstick. And I was like, is that really what we're thinking about right now? And so I usually just ignore it. And sometimes if I do hear negative criticism and I choose not to ignore it, I'll just say, thank you for your feedback. I appreciate you sharing your thoughts with me. I hope you have a wonderful day. And 9 times out of 10, if someone said something really nasty, they take it back because they're like, I didn't mean to say that. I was having a bad day, whatever was going on. Because sometimes I think that we forget that other people have feelings. So I really try to ignore it as much as I can. And it can be hard to ignore it, but I try to. I try not to read the comments or anything. And even for my peers as well, I think a good thing is to take everything with a grain of salt. Sometimes you do hear criticism that is warranted, so don't disregard everything. But when you hear it, think about is there anything helpful in this? Is there anything I can learn? If there is, take it. And if there's not, then let it roll off your back.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I want to share a quick story. Dr. Herring, proud dad over there, shared a video of Vanessa when she first got this job that she's in now. And by the end of the video, I was the proud owner of a blend jet. And love the products, love the work, but I can't watch it because you're too good at your job. I'd be broke. But my question is, have you run into any products that were just really challenging to promote or to sell?
The good thing is that we wouldn't be presenting it if it was. Now, you can't possibly use everything. So there's some things that I just haven't used before, but honestly, there's sometimes where something I haven't used before, and by the end of the 8 minutes I'm talking about, I'm like, I kind of need that, which is also part of the problem. So I'm like, I kind of need that. But I think that the interesting thing is it's not about you. And that's the thing that, especially if you go into journalism, it's never about you. And so coming from that background, it's not about me. It's about me taking you shopping. And so there's something that you may want to shop for. When you go to the store with your friends, you don't want everything they want. So, I'm taking you shopping. I'm kind of the guide, and you have to take yourself out of it. So I'm I don't know, if you don't like wearing orange, that's fine. But people do like wearing orange. And so it's not about whether you want to wear orange, if that makes sense.
How about a big round of applause for Vanessa Herring?
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.